Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Scream 6. And I'll tell you right now, I actually enjoyed to a certain degree the Scream movie from 2022. So I was quite interested in this one. I'm not a big fan of the Scream franchise in general. I do quite like the first movie, but past that, I've tried 2 times to watch the franchise all the way through. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch through this whole thing. Every single time I watched through the second one, and then I just quit because I don't like the second one that much. So I haven't even seen the entire franchise. So there are definitely things in this movie and in the last one that I watched from 2022 and reviewed that I'll see it, but I won't necessarily get it because there are ties into some of the films that I haven't seen before. So just know that. All right, so this one's directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who did VHS, Devil's Due, Southbound, Ready or Not, which I really liked Ready or Not the most of what they've done, and the 2022 Scream. And like I said, I thought they did a pretty good job with the 2022 Scream, especially directorially. I mean, it looks quite nice. There are a lot of interesting camera shots, a lot of interesting framing of shots, camera angles, movements, all that type of stuff. Some cool visuals going on in this movie, and that was the case with the 2022 one as well. So you can tell watching the 2 movies that they are done by the same people because they have that same feel. They have that same look. They have the same creativity that's going on with it. This one's written by James Vanderbilt, who also wrote Darkness Falls, Zodiac, The Amazing Spider-Man, White House Down, Independence Day Resurgence, and the 2022 Scream script. And Gary Busick, who did Watch Over Me, Stand Against Evil, Ready or Not, Castle Rock, and the 2022 Scream. And Kevin Williamson involved with this a little bit. I think he was also like executive producer on this movie. He wrote the original Scream. He also did I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, Cursed, Dawson's Creek, The Following, and Sick, just to name a few. So still working, still doing a lot of good stuff. I don't really want to give a whole lot of a synopsis. It's another installment in the Scream franchise. It picks up where the 2022 Scream film leaves off. Basically, the survivors from that movie end up moving to New York. So that's basically what it is there's a Ghostface killer that shows up again, as is the case in every single one of these movies, but the setting is different. This really had this kind of feeling to me early on of like, oh, this is the Jason Takes Manhattan movie, except we're not going to spend a bunch of time on a boat. It just kind of had that feel to me, but yeah. Anyway, by the way, Buy or Die Chopping Mall. Wearing my Chopping Mall shirt today from Fright Rags. I know there's some people who like me to talk about what shirt I'm wearing and show it, so just letting you know. So that's all I'm going to give as far as the synopsis of this. You really don't need it. If you're a fan of Scream movies, you'll probably enjoy this movie, I would assume. If you're not a fan of Scream movies, you still might enjoy it to some degree, because there is stuff to like there, in my opinion. The opening sequence actually seems pretty lazy and not believable, unfortunately. The writing of this one versus the writing of the last one, you can tell, seemed a little more rushed, in my opinion. It seemed a little more blasé about doing things. You could tell that a lot more time, attention, and thought went into the script for the 2022 Scream versus this one. That said, it's not a bad movie. I did enjoy it enough, but I'm not going to rate it as well as I rated the last one, but it's not that big of a drop, to be honest, star rating-wise. But yeah, the opening sequence seems very lazy, not believable. So I was kind of like, oh no, am I not going to end up liking this movie? Because it's a 2-hour movie. I think it's like 2 hours and 2 minutes with the credits involved. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, the pacing's going to be bad. This is going to feel too long. And honestly, it actually doesn't. There are a few moments where it does kind of drag a bit here and there. And I'm like, ooh, maybe they could have shaved this down a little bit, could have shaved this down a little bit. But it's not a lot. And there aren't any stints where it's a significant amount of time where you feel like it's really dragging. So I'm surprised they did a good job with the pacing for it being a 2-hour movie. Because normally these types of movies, you only really need like an hour and a half. But I do think the ending, though, was a bit drawn out for what it was, but not ridiculously so. It does seem like the self-aware aspect isn't coming off as well in this one, and it feels way too on the nose. It feels too in your face, too on the nose, and not in like a fun, cheeky way that the original Scream did it. But it also does produce some good moments much later in the film when they kind of talk about the franchise aspect of movies. That self-aware aspect was good. The self-aware stuff that they have earlier in the movie, I don't think is good. Like I said, it seems way too forced. It seems way too on the nose, and it kind of like is eye-roll inducing, to be honest. It just seems overdone. But the franchise aspect, that was something new that they were kind of adding into it that was actually very interesting. And one of the characters talks about it, which, you know, that's a very Scream thing, hearkening all the way back to the very first Scream. The characters seem very shallow and uninteresting. That's one of my big problems with this. It does seem to me like they're kind of solely depending on you having seen the one from 2022. And that's not always going to be the case. You are going to have plenty of people who haven't seen that one and they decide that they want to see this one because people have been talking about it and they don't want to go back and watch other movies. They just want to watch this one. So for that reason, the characters don't seem that interesting. Also, just the aspect of, I watched that other movie like a year ago. I don't remember everything that was going on with these characters. They haven't been built up for me in this particular movie, so they seem a little shallow. They seem a little uninteresting. And honestly, I kind of felt that way about those characters in this 2022 one anyway. So they're not great characters. And then they're just kind of continuing not great characters and not giving them any development whatsoever. And they're not giving them any more depth. They're not giving them any more backstory or anything like that. So you're just kind of like, okay, these are just people who are trying to be killed. Like it doesn't drive a whole lot of interest from the character aspect, unfortunately. A bunch of stuff feels very forced and done out of convenience to move story where the writing wants to go, or where the writers wanted it to go. So, like I said, this goes back to what I was talking about before. This seems like, in comparison to the 2022 one, the script was more rushed. There was a lot less thought and time that went into it. Still not bad. Still not bad at all, but you can just tell in comparison. There are a lot of character interactions that feel off. Dialogue is problematic from time to time, and there are these character interactions, and I don't think it's the acting, because the acting is quite good in this movie, as it was in the 2022 one, but they just feel off. A lot of these character interactions don't seem right, and I think a lot of that comes down to the dialogue that's written. It's just kind of off from time to time, and you're just like, why are these people talking this way to each other, and why are they reacting this way to each other? It's just kind of weird. It's not constant through the movie, but yeah, kind of weird. About 30 minutes in is when things get a lot more interesting. Kind of interesting in the first 30 minutes, but once you hit that 30-minute mark, things really jump up. It hits that next level, and you're way more invested, way more glued to the screen, or at least that was the case for me. There are some decently tense moments. I really did enjoy the fact that they have entire scenes that get pretty tense, that have good action to them, that have good dread elements that really grab you and keep you engaged. So those were my favorite aspects of the movie, honestly. The actual brutality of some of the killing, it's not super gory for the most part. There are a few gore moments here and there, but it's not super gory. It's more about the sound design with the stabbing effect. And that, how those are paired up, make it seem very brutal and very vicious. And I think that works within the movie. And so, yeah, that helps on those scenes as well. I do like all the dialogue with the modulated killer's voice. Shout out to Roger Jackson, who does a phenomenal job as the voice of Ghostface, and he's been doing it. I'm not sure he did it for every single one of the Scream movies, but he's done it for a lot of the Scream movies, and he is just so good at it. I am just enthralled every time I'm hearing that modulated voice. I'm just like, the voice of Ghostface is more iconic to me than the actual look and body movements of whoever's playing Ghostface. Just saying. That's me personally. There are a good amount of scenes that are visually interesting. This goes back to that good directing, that nice cinematography I was talking about before. Very well handled. So from a visual standpoint, it's super engaging. Very interesting to watch. There is one scene on a subway, wildly unbelievable. Wildly unbelievable. Same with that opening sequence that I was talking about that's very unbelievable. And this goes back to that kind of convenience with the writing from time to time. You really feel like they got to this point where they're like, we need to move this story from this point to this point, and we really don't know how to believably do that right now, and we're running out of time to get this script done. So let's just do this. That subway scene in particular, oh my goodness. So unbelievable, so ridiculous. Definitely rolled my eyes on that one. The ending felt very similar. The ending felt very similar to the ending of an earlier installment in the franchise. I'm not going to say which one, but if you've seen them, or if you've seen that particular movie, I think you're going to be getting that same feeling. I'm not saying it's exactly like it, but it feels very similar to it, and for that reason, I didn't enjoy it as much. I also do think that with the ending of this, it just starts to feel like, what else are you going to do with this franchise? Because I'm sure they're going to keep doing it because it's making money. But what are you going to do? And at some point, it's really going to fall off. It hasn't at the moment with the 2022 one and the 2023 one, but I'm not so sure about another one. Like, what do you do? And at some point, people just get very used to the twists that you try to throw out, the surprises you try to throw out, and they're just not going to work as well. And that's kind of one of the reasons that franchises need to die out, in my opinion, because you can't just keep giving people the same stuff over and over again, and it just doesn't hit the same way. It really doesn't. So, just saying. And the last comment I want to make about this isn't the underlying theme of the movie, but the movie does take a swipe at conspiracy theory idiots and the things that conspiracy theory idiots do to society. So I did enjoy that aspect of it, because the whole conspiracy theory thing is so ridiculous. It's gotten so out of hand, and it's very damaging. And I do like the fact that they kind of had a little bit of commentary on that. It's just in one section of the movie. It's not like a whole through line for the film. So if that makes your eyes roll, a little too on the nose, it's not a large part of it. But yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Scream 6. And yeah, I enjoyed it enough. Like I said, it's not as good as the 2022 one. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving it a solid 3-star rating. It's still solid enough to watch. I'm not upset that I watched it. Still pretty surprised at the pacing for how long it was. So that was a good achievement. But this is where I'd love to hear your opinions on the movie. Go ahead and put it in the comments. And then we'll be talking about the next one next year. Not really looking forward to that, but I will watch it just to do reviews and my curiosity of it. Do me a quick favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, go ahead and hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 a week at this point. But regardless, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.